Alright, now I think we're underway. Go and Jamie told me no, but that it doesn't matter. But yeah, we are getting underway. Drinking beer. I should probably get my setup go with everything I want to see. I get prepared before races and totally don't scramble to figure it out at the last second because Crossplay is talent. But yeah, of course, if you're diving into the stream, welcome to round number 13. We're technically 14 here in LSR Group 1. Today we head over to Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix around Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Very challenging circuit, very different circuit, especially due to a lot of the as well. Tire temperatures are going to be very important to manage his grip. Definitely a factor here. You want to really maximize that speed down those very long straights, but especially in Sector 2 and once you stadium, downforce becomes really, really important. So definitely keeping an eye on a Buzz Durrell getting a little power hap as he's leading the pack out in that number 3 battalion. Of course, hope you all have been having a good day wherever you are at. Of course, once again, I'm Vic Hancock, as some of you might know it. Once again, I'm joined by James. How you doing? Yeah, and of course, with it being the Bathurst 12-hour and not the Bathurst 1000 quite yet, I think you can make the argument that it is Bogue Easter this week to the Bogue Christmas, which makes sense because they're about the same apart. But of course, Drew making his way to the first couple of corners now. Of course, Heartbreaking going to be reaching speeds of close to 200 miles an hour in qualifying, and of course double DRS down each of these DRS zones, kind of 1 and 2, and it's a 28.6 through Sector 1 is Wingish. Does have qualifying ban coming in, serve that, so that'll be off of his mark. But Drew through kind of slower section of 4, 5, and 6, and now you got the really tight SS section. Track limits really going to be a big thing to look at. It's really easy to just at 1 or 2 of these corners because it's so, they come at you so quickly. It's really easy to have a little mistake there and end up getting 3 seconds very quick. Of course, now into the very slow stadium section. Not going to allow overtaking down through here, but it's still very important to get right, especially this final corner as it comes out onto the pit straight. So the roll is going to set the bar today. The LSR comes to the line 10.396. That'll set the mark for the rest of our drivers. And of course, this is the penultimate round of the championship. I haven't easily kept you here up, so I'm going to go ahead and take a quick... Yeah. Oh. That's certainly an interesting decision. Some of that might just be looking to just get a recon lap out on inters and save a couple of sets, as King James goes to the top of the order with a 1:15.6. But granted, he may also just be cosplaying the history from next year's game and just get into the spirit early. But yeah, he's down there on those inners, so we'll probably see him put a lap later. Xercity still looking to get a lap set. definitely want to also call attention to P15 with the return, aka Yuki, of course, Season 2 Group 2 champion. A lot of those early LSR seasons and very, very quick, so definitely good to see him back. Yeah. Yes. Of course, Moipuli goes third quickest there. Hypnos, of course, podium in his first race out. He currently sits fourth, and it's the two Alpha Tauris in fifth and sixth. Owner, meanwhile, and Aston Martin, definitely keep an eye with Aston Martin's owner and Ogas. They've been, red hot as of late and made some really good jumps. But the championship fight is down to Wingish and Joner, Joner sadly could not make it today. So Wingish trying to look the championship. He does have a 17-point lead at the moment. So 9 points will put him over the edge of the championship win. That would necessitate a P5, I believe. So if Wingish finishes in P5 or better, he does lock up the Drivers' Championship this week. Meanwhile, Tano making his way through Sector 2. That's a 56.6 through those first two sectors. Of course, we don't know quite how that is relative as of right now. And if it does show up purple down in mini-map, corner now, and his return to LSR. Tano to the line, that time good enough for P2. So Tano right back on the pace and flying for Williams and jumps ahead of owner. Yeah, JM now coming out of the line. He's gonna almost full task. He's actually gonna go out and hit the wall there. He is still gonna gain about a quarter of a second, but that's not quite good enough to boost him from 10 time in the bag for Tano's teammate of Jay to potentially put some better time on the board. Meanwhile, I think it's going to be Vip. Go with a Vippy in that Alpine. Of course, it's his debut, as well as James Senna down there in 16 right now in that Ferrari. Both drivers making their LSR debuts today. So that's good to see some new guys come in as they slot in P7 and P9. Here comes Jimmy to the line for that second lap. He's actually going to jump just ahead of his teammate. He'll jump up P7. I believe it's going to be one of the Mercedes to the line. That's actually going to be Zersity looking to get a lap started. So definitely trying to slide through. I think Derul be the next cross line. He is up a 10th half through the first two sectors. Of course, making his way through the stadium now and out of the final corner because you really want to keep it as tight as possible in that run to the line. He's just shades behind Tano. That last time 1:16.32. So Derul jumping up into third of Robbie, I believe, just crossing the line. I don't believe he improved either that or he's just getting his lap started. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that time potentially dropping. Coulter up to P10, VDV out jumps them though. Of course, both drivers on softs, as well as I believe that was Hypno potentially jumping up into P6. So, pretty tight at places in that mid pack. Of course, that 2, 3, and 4 separated by less than 10th, and then 5 through 7 separated by about 2 tenths, but still a decent bit of field spread. But certainly not loads. Here comes Zersity out of the final corner. Of course, his home run jump up P9 actually. So that's a pretty good first go of things for Zersity, jumping up into the top 10 for Mercedes. Yeah, meanwhile, Robbie did jump back up ahead of Zisa, was able to take that P9 back. Of course, Hypno currently sitting P6. He's up a little bit over 10th through 2 sectors. Come to the final corner. How far can that jump up? He'll actually jump in P2, so he'll ahead of Tano. So the Hatch really on it. Of course, Gaming still really up, and of course he's on his second lap, but he's just slightly about 10th for his first sector. So we'll have to see if at 994 Bull can he further jumps up the order. Yeah. Here comes our final corner. Of course, Game James will be following him a little bit from Cooley, apparently, out of that final corner. He does gain about 2 tenths, but not enough to gain a position. Now, Pulsitter, though, will drive another pit lane in order to warrant an in-lap. So he'll dive in. But yeah, currently it is still Gaming James in P1. Hypnos, of course, on his debut last week, currently sits P2. Owner on the lap in that just about matched his first sector time. And of course, definitely nice to see number 5 on Aston Martin. And he's slightly up through 2 sectors. Good lap time from Owner, just tightens that now really front, P2 through P6 up very nicely. Now, of course, I definitely want everybody watching to keep in mind that we could see a lot of different strategies out today. Optimally somewhere in the mid-30s to the 40s on the front, maybe the 30s on the, but, it could be very interesting to see what everybody has gone with. Of course, trying to keep those tires in the operating window you want them is going to be very, very important, especially with how much temperature can really grow in them. In the sector, keep an eye as the race could certainly get very interesting as we continue here. Up about a quarter of a second. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, Wicks was up about a quarter of a second before then. Viperize, meanwhile, was up a quarter second through 2 sectors. He's actually going to gain a little bit over 4 tenths and make a nice little jump up there into P11. Of course, Viperize going to be looking to make strides up toward his teammate of Gaming James, and of course, with him being in reserve, get as many points as possible for the outfit. As a couple of cars looking to come out and get set for their second laps, but to give you an update on the constructor standings as well. It's really it's basically a one-horse race at this point. McLaren, but certainly far from over, depending on how results fall today. McLaren, of course, right now sitting on 201 points, sitting down on 178, so 23 points adrift. and then with 8 points back of them at 31 back of the lead. Really, three teams. So three teams still significantly in it. Has, depending on how they performed it, could certainly theoretically put their name into the hat. But still really McLaren lose. They're going to be fighting from a little bit of a disadvantage. I believe the gap that they'll need at the end of the day is going to be, what, 34 points? 44 points?
What is?
Yeah, McLaren need a 44-point lead at the end of today's race in order to lock up the Constructors' Championship.
44 points. It's going to, again, a huge challenge for McLaren to do with Wingish down in last and John Wick not having the greatest of laps.
Do have Amy and Bippy currently sitting P7 and P8, so out very solid and have a shot at the Constructors' Championship. And of course, a bunch of drivers get started. I believe Hypno is actually on the lap. So he's actually going to have to try and feel traffic a little bit. Of course, here he comes up. Distinct sector timing marker. Of course, might have gotten a little bit of tow from some cars ahead. Up about 1,000 through that first sector.
As the Williams just tries to get out of the way, it wasn't much out of the way, but it's out of the way. Whereas Hypno just gets a huge snap.
Yeah, just you really got to try and attack some of the curbs through there. But it's that kind of, I believe that second kind of kink to it. Yeah, it's that first little kink to the right, which is turn number, I believe, where if you just hook your tire a little bit over the line, can really mess up your lap. But Gaming James, of course, is going to be leading this long train of cars starting the lap. Owner, meanwhile, a little bit further up the road. He's up almost half early in his lap, and so the Aston Martin going to be the first to a final lap time. Of course, does have a speed behind the rule. Who's get fastest for AlphaTauri with a 1:15.8. So that's a big lap from him. Of course, not quite good enough to us, James, as of right now. Of course, here comes through the sector. He's getting validated, though.
Yeah, and in that second sector again, Durul has gone slower, so I don't know what his plan is. Game James isn't fastest in that first sector, so some people will not get a second lap time. Tano is up on his lap time.
And yeah, was able to get around and start another lap. So the first to the line will be Thomas D in the Haas. That lap time good enough for 15th. But next to the line is going to be the provisional pole sitter of Gaming James. He's going to be pretty slow at the front of the corner, though. So I don't think he'll improve from 1:15.6. So can anybody put a challenge to him? Owners pushing on the lap. Tano, meanwhile, up over a 10th and a half. Can he pull out any magic in the final sector as a bunch of drivers combine? Oga's no time. Tano to the line. That lap time good for P2 by about a 10th and a half. But about a 10th and a half back. VDV Alley for Mercedes goes 10th fastest. It's going to be Vappy. Or Vippy next line. That lap time will stay P8, so Alpine no better than 8th. Cooch goes 11th quickest. Mike Cooley coming to the final corner. He was up about a quarter of a second through 2 sectors, and ahead of him is one of the McLarens. He'll go 13th fastest. Mike Cooley did a lap time. Good enough P4, and we'll have to see if anybody is improving. Owner not up significantly. Durul going to dive into the pits, and so I believe that will be your starting grid as Owner is down. So Gaming James pull from Tano, Durul in third, edging out quickly, and Hypnos rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, Owner just making that mistake in the final sector. He was about 10th or 2 up on his lap time, so very sad to see him make that small mistake of going wide in that final few corners.
Yeah, but of course, it is going to be, with 1:15.630, it is the Brit on pole. So definitely a rare sight to not see the fin up there, or the fins up there, and Canna right next to him. Definitely keep an eye on drivers towards the back, as well as the other end of Moikley, and definitely keep an eye on some of the guys, as well as Wingish Ogas coming from the back. Definitely be sure to subscribe if you haven't done already, as we actually lose Coulter, sadly, so I will definitely try to get him again. And hopefully we can. I think we may have to wait until the race start. I will look into that.
He's asked for a re-invite, so I think you can do that now.
Yep. I think we're still loading, so I'm gonna hold off. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there we go. Alright, so hopefully he can, hopefully he's gonna be able to take control of his car, at least quick enough. I'm not sure if he'll quite get the opportunity. But of course, everybody getting their settings all set now. There is Coulter back. Of course, we have the countdown here, so but you know, long run down to turn 1, really important to start right, as well as you really stay out of trouble, as those first 3 corners here in Mexico can get really challenging, as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lights, and another pause away here in Mexico. And it seems to be a good front from the front too. Tano, though, with a great push. He's actually going to be side by side down the pit straight. Going to give it a squeeze. Look to be almost through wide, but that's have the advantage. Tano pulls ahead, and he will hold the lead into turn 1. So Tano takes the early. Let's see, Darul in third, Hypnos, and so contact. It's going to be really well down the ore. I think he got tagged rear. Owner is able to overtake Hypnos, so he's up into the upper points. The European 6th and 7th Wings with an early jump into 14th. But early on here, James looking around the outside of Tano down there at turn 6, not able to get that to work, and so Jerome has an opportunity, but they're actually going to have to fall all into single file. They make their way into sector 2.
Yeah, very nice first lap as we have a VSC, and I think that was Jerome going off and out of the session. And I think we just had that snap again in that second sector that we were talking about. Safety car is now out on track. So instead of a VSC, we now have a safety car.
I think that that VSC was actually brought out debris, because if you go down to Coulter and Waits, both drivers missing their front wings entirely. So they're going to have to dive into the pits, and I think I saw them go wide at the start of turn number 6. I'm pretty sure I definitely saw Waits go wide there, so I'm not sure if there were EA collisions involved. But I think City there with Dan Ellis. He'll dive into the pits, as will Coulter. And I'd assume Waits behind them. Will. Zercity actually just going to make the early stop. He's going to go to mediums, and then Coulter and Waits, of course, diving in for front wing changes.
Yeah, a few people already pitting. Wingish as well, up into P12, so not many places to go for him until he gets that championship title. We will keep an eye on him and an eye on the standings if we can. If we can do quick maths in our heads, probably not going to work, but
yeah, I think the championship is certainly easier, as it is just Wingish getting 10 points that will decide it. So that is P5 or better for the McLaren. Constructor standings, I don't know if we'll quite be able to miss that as of right now, but of course definitely will keep you updated depending on how much math we feel like doing on Saturday noon or evening, and if not, I'll just blame the beer.
Is 44 points even possible in a race?
Sorry, so they need to end with a 44-point gap. So I believe the gap now is 23 points. Wingish and Waits need to outscore Jamie and Vippy by by about. They need to outscore the pair of Alpines by 21 points.
Yeah, so they would have at least had to be in the top 3 to get that, and they're not there. Unless there's a miracle that they get into the top 3, they would then win the constructors as well, I'm guessing, because that's what, 25 and 18, so that's easy maths there, I would presume.
Yeah, so certainly some options for them. I think, well, the Alpines are running already. Of course, starting in 5th, 6th. That's definitely a possibility. Of course, still a lot of racing left to go, 36 laps. So same amount of laps we've seen around Austria, which sadly had to be, we are going to canceling. So it will be a 14 season. But still, should be very interesting. And just to bring some notice to some strategy early on, the Ferrari of Senna going for soft early, added Derul, who of course didn't make it through a lap. Most grid opting for medium. Owner, Hypnos, Vippy, Wingish, and Moikulu meanwhile opting for hards. And Zercity actually to grab a boss. As he boxed again, he'll be at tail of the field and looking to just try and take those tires as long as possible. So we're going to get a late safety car in as Zercity does pull up the hill of the field. So Tano has control. Of course, it's a long one down into turn 1. So where will he pull the trigger? He's still holding off. So still holding.
He's gone now.
We're back on the way. Here on 4, got jump there as JM actually getting 2 guys. Garoon, Jamie, Hypnos with some of that straight line speed. Robbie as well, Hypnos with a terrible restart there. He just got completely out. He's dropped all the way down to P7. Ogling up into 11th. Wingish trying away. He's up into 13th now. Here comes Game though. On the Williams of Tano, looking down the outside to turn 4, but he is going to have to back out as Tano has that inside line, but still all over the back of them.
Yeah, Tano just having that first corner defended well against of Gaming James, because Gaming James, along that straight, he is very, very fast. So at the moment, it's advantage Tano for this race.
Yeah. And see how that gap has already started to break out a little. It gets up to 6/10 in that middle sector. And that's Hypnos and Robbie out. I believe that was just got a virtual. We do have a full safety car, I believe. But
yes.
That's the other 2 drivers quickly out. But yeah, big incident there in the middle. And so we've already got a second safety car as. Both drivers out. Hypnos, who of course running really well, but did not have a very good restart. And Robbie was flying pretty well too. I believe they were in the fight for 7. Is JM gonna dive into the pit? So one Williams at the front, one Williams gonna all the way to the tail of the field, and of course everybody gonna behind the safety car.
No, he's just changing to medium.
For hard.
Hards.
No. Yeah, that is hard. Definitely couldn't quite tell the kind of position that Sun was at. Comes now out of the pit lane. But yeah, definitely can be really challenging. That middle sector, potentially just a mistake from those 2 drivers, leaving the other with nowhere to go. But yeah, definitely disappointing to see, and that may be some of the challenges some of these drivers are facing.
Apparently, there's going to be rain in 15 minutes. So, I don't know what this is going to do, but 2 races in a row, we got rain for the second time. here it could prove very difficult, so we'll have to wait and see on how this will change the race.
Yeah, we're still like lots of time to go to see how quick. Of course, jumping on board with the leader of Tano. I definitely see some of these clouds starting to coalesce a little bit. Certainly, not as of right now. A quick little spritz, and then move on. Of course, we'll have to see. Another thing to note is that Windish up in the P9. So very nicely. His team of weights in P12. But once again, those Alpines just doing well to keep their noses clean up in the 4th and 5th, as we'll probably get back underway this lap with JM coming up to the field right about way through turn 1 and the field approaching turn 4.
Yeah, that's all they've got to do is just keep their nose clean, don't crash into each other, and they could well be up for a great championship race next weekend. As Sneaky Robbie has left the session, sadly for him. He's out on lap 4. Same with Hypernose, Joel out on lap 1.
And of course, next weekend out, of course, will be the season finale at Interlagos. So definitely subscribe if you haven't already, so that you are notified when we go live for that. Should have at least one championship battle on hand, and potentially two, depending on how it continues. Of course, still a lot of time left to go. A safety car is in the a lot more time for Tano to get set and allow that safety car the pit lane. And so the whole pack getting set now. Of course, let's see when Tano elects to make that getaway. We saw him that gap to about 4/10 last time on the restart. Of course, the final safety car in the pit lane as Coulter actually makes contact with Mike Cool. So that's 5-second penalties. A little bit over with Tano, who's going to hold off still, and he's going to take off now. A little bit of wheel spin as they get back under, but Gaming James keep it nicely with the, going still quite nicely. And here he comes as they run down to turn 1. We're on the restart. Red Bull gaining time to the Alpine. Tano cover to the inside. So Gaming is going to try to sweep around the outside now. Will battle though a little bit deep. He is going to park that car right on the apex into turn 2. And as they come out of turn, the gap is still there. Garundini just up into P3, gets that move done on Owner as they fan up behind. I believe 3 wide for a second there. James looking down the inside as they run to turn 4, but Tano later on the brakes. On the outside, a Ferrari goes deep. That is Senna. He's going to drop right down the shot that braking point. But P1 and 2 very tight together.
Yeah, very good lap, and I think Senna's Michael has had a bit of a mistake in sector 2. Well, the start of sector 2, so not the greatest of laps on him, but we have some time to pull it back. Tano still currently in the lead by 2 tenths at the moment. So we'll see what he can do from that straight line, and we've seen his straight line speed has been amazing so far.
And of course, the gapping at about 6/10 right before the safety car through that middle sector. Meanwhile, Gaming James much closer this time. That gap down to 1/4 of a second, 2/10, and closing. Tano gonna once again go to the inside to try and defend the Red Bull right on the gearbox. He's gonna pop out to the inside, almost comes together for a second there, but Tano later on able to defend James around the outside. Seemingly keep it clean. A little bit of contact though is going to open the door for Kawoon Jamie to come through. He'll jump up into P2 a little bit, a little bit of hard racing there it seemed between Tano and Gaming James. Going to look to go right back down the inside. A little contact there with the Alpine, but he'll jump back up into P2, and this could be Yuki's chance to make a little bit of a getaway.
Yeah, this is his chance. This is probably the one chance that he was probably hoping of, that James just make that mistake, and he did make. I think he made a little bit of a mistake trying to push it down the inside. of that a few times and almost then making contact with Jamie, unless he did make that contact. I didn't see it from Jamie's view, but from James's it seemed like there might have been. Currently Tano out of that DRS range.
Yeah, of course that gap sitting at about a second now. So James will look to really try and push and get that time regained. Going Jamie also fallen off of that field a little now too. But Tano potentially really starting to push. Is that not coming down between P1 and P2? Wingus trying to make a move on the Alpine of Hippie, and actually I think they're going wheel to wheel, and I think Wingus mistake. I think going into the side of the going to drop down behind. So McLaren still holding in P7 and P9, but the Alpine and the Aston Martin swapping places.
Yeah, I think Vippy had just a little bit of wheel spin and just caused the rear end to hit Wingish, I think. From Wingish's view, it seemed like that happened as I think that's Orgs. As
the old flag, that's Jane.
Another safety car.
Yeah, so that's another at turn number 7. Set turn 7 and turn 8. We're gonna hook that wheel just a slight bit over the curb, but just a little too much. Can really easily lead to losing that car. Dives into the pit lane. James stays out, but Hannah looking to dive in early. What is the tire choice for the Williams now? As Coulter, Vippy will follow. He's going to bring in leader. Tano opting for enters under safety. Is the Alpine of Vippy going to? No, he won't. Moy Cooley, meanwhile, diving into the pits. He will also stay on slicks, I believe. So yeah, our leader of Yuki opting for enters early in the safety. Does that mean nothing is imminent?
It does look it looks much darker than it has the last few laps, so I do wonder if that rain is imminent, as you say. I'm going to keep an eye on if Wi-Fi says any updates for us, because I know he's still here in the chat.
Yeah. I'm definitely watching. Definitely keep an eye for that quick. There will be a quick little flash before the rain does start, which I believe is a little bit of a spectator bug, but does make it very good for us to know when exactly it start to fall.
So we have an update.
So I assume based on,
and it is, as we are saying, at any moment now. So
we're unlikely to get
there it is.
And there's that brief flash that was mentioning. So are we going to see a train quickly into the pits now? Or we'll see a number of drivers opt to stay out as the rain drops do start to fall. Galen James elects to stay out, as does owner. Anybody to make the dive in will dive the pit lane, so he's looking to move and get aggressive. Likewise, will dive into the pits, but does get a speeding penalty. Xercity opting for enters, as does Vippy and Moy Cooley. So another driver's now opting for the... And of course, probably the biggest right now is going to be that Williams panel, but Wingish may have just made a great move in his drive championship hopes. Of course, in terms of construct, Vippy definitely making a good move there. Of course, this is his debut, but it's right into championship fight. Of course, we should get back underway this lap. Of course, depend on just how quickly that Ferrari of Moy Cooley can get around that tail of the field, but I'd imagine he's going to get caught up as they reach Sector 3. By the time they reach the start of Sector 3, and by the time they do start, at number 12.
I wonder how quickly this track will get damp, if this rain is going to be heavy or it's going to be light throughout the whole race. So it might take a little bit longer. at the moment, it's still looking like drives to the best, as I think this is the lap when safety car is going to come in.
Depends on just how quick he'll be holding up, trying to get his teammate a little bit of an advantage, and potentially just try and not use the advantage. But I think it doesn't matter. I think he's going to pull out of the field, and we are going to get in the way. How did he time this? Safety car going to dive in? No, Moikuli actually getting to the pack too late. So a number of drivers looking to dive into the pit. Gaming James dives into the pits. He's going to sacrifice track position, and Jamie will follow as Coulter. So 3 more cars diving into the pits for Inters, as Moikuli just not able to catch up to the back of the field in time, which means that safety car can be extended by 1 more lap. And Coulter with a big mistake. Oh no, never mind. I thought that was and Coulter is opting for its intermediate tires. It was showing on my screen for a second, as he was slapping some old mediums on, but he did grab those Inters. So I think no matter what now, we should get it underway.
So now, Wingish is net P2, just saying, after being last place. Because I'm gathering everybody else will be pitting within the next few laps, so that will put Wingish and Tano in P1 and 2. Byprice will be P3. So this could
Cersei on his return 4 as well.
This could get a little bit interesting with the dries versus the wet, the intermediates this lap, because I'm assuming this will be the lap that we get underway.
And of course the track not that different, as I can actually see a couple of the markers there. At that last thing, safety car is in this lap. This can be with control of field. So we're going to slow that pack right in. And so what is the Aston Martin going to do here? Of course, he has his teammate right behind him in P3. So the front six all on slick. And owner taking his time through the final sectors. He's going to slow to a crawl here as he gets very low. And everybody having to fan out as they make their way into that final corner. And owner, that safety car as possible, of course. That kind of pretty slow. He is get back away. So here goes the Aston Martin as we get underway here at the start of lap 13 in a rainy Mexico City, and he got a big to be out make a move. He's going to go down the inside of the Mercedes on their side. 3 wide as comes Waits down that straight. Who's going to take advantage? Wade's going to take it P2. He's going to get both of them as they make the run down into turn 1 on the safety car, but it's Owner with a good getaway.
A very nice getaway from Owner. I was questioning what that start was at the start of sector 3, but it worked in the end for the Aston Martin driver, and now we have Aston Martin, McLaren, Aston Martin again. With the Aston Martin showing up a very nice performance here.
But of course, those cars only like slower now. Of course, they still are still going to have to make the pit stop. Of course, Inters start coming P7 as a bit of a wiggle there for Tano. Here comes Wing around the outside and on the inside as they make their way through the S's. Tano going to run off. So here comes Wingish. They're going to go side by side down into that 90-degree right here into the stadium section. They're still going to stay side right as Tano runs a bit. Wingish looking to try and finish that move around the outside, and Wingish had able to move. Now is the new leader on intermediates.
Yeah, very huge slide as well from the McLaren driver as he got past Tano, as we have a Ferrari spun round on the pit exit entry on it.
Yeah, that was Moikuli. I'm not sure if he just made a mistake and was diving into the pits. But of course, he is going to have to dive in now here on lap number 14. All the drivers getting underway. Of course, while we're talking, Wingish's teammate of Waits did dive lane. He opted for Inters immediately. So they're just not to his liking in those tighter sectors. Wingish still battling side by side with Tano out as they run down into turn 4. But you know, the gap not really growing too much right now. They do seem to still have a decent bit of pace in them, but his inner's now the right call, as the lane's still pretty light. Though that Aston Martin jumping on board with owners, a little bit sliding on that rear end.
The rear ends are getting very slidey as that Xerxity around.
Yeah, that was in that middle sector as well, where we've seen a couple of DNFs all over today. He's down into P13, but is able to get back underway. Anybody diving into the pit lane this lap as the rain continues to fall. DRS is enabled, so the track is safe for slicks. But of course, you know, looking to make a move here. Of course, currently sitting in P6, so just needs one position as of right now, and then to hold that to lock up the Drivers' Championship. And of course, is a stand back of Thomas and JM as of this moment. Jamie and Vippy go side by side, and it's going to be Jamie moving into the points as he's looking to make a move now on Game James from Coulter, who's going to fall off that pack a little bit.
Yeah, this is going to be quite interesting. This rain still, again, it's not dropping heavily enough for these intermediate tyres to make that right effect against the dries, but Wingish now all over the back end of the Haas driver through the second sector, so as Wingish again gets in that huge slide.
Yeah, you know, very big moment. There's those inters, but overheating a little bit. Of course, I think the inters right now might be in a better position to be in, because of course, you know, you really want to be in that right scenario as right now, because this rain is going to continue to fall for the rest of this race. It's not going to let up. These might be just a tire to be on, as all these, as you know, current front five, all still going to have to make another pit stop. Meanwhile, everybody has the potential to take those tires to the end of the race. Here comes Wingish now on Thomas down the pit street. He's going to tuck in. He's going to dip out from behind. DRS advantage. Dippy going to retire from the session in the pit lane. So that's an Alpine out of the race. The inside, and he makes contact with Wingish. So Tom B, with a very optimistic move, potentially just underestimating how much braking power he had in these changeable conditions, goes into the Wingish tag, and he's going to drop right into this battle with Jamie.
That's really going to... and he's made even more
and now
contact.
Wingish is going to make contact. So a little bit of frustration there, and up the orbit of Coulter, I think, right down the inside of Viper, and it gives much the same thing. So driver seemingly really struggling with some of these conditions. Seems like Goon Jamie came out of it okay, but Wingish now down to the P11. I do have to say, I think that was very, very optimistic from us to try and hold that position. I think, of course, he wants to give his teammate, who, of course, will make it to the Jonah, as much chance as possible to try and be aggressive. But I think there's certainly a penalty cut for that.
Yeah, and then, again, Wingish is trying to make that move down the inside, and I don't think it worked that great, as now he's fallen behind his teammate. He's going to get back, he's going to have to try and get his way back up to 5th now after this. So this is going to be quite a tricky challenge for himself now.
Of course, he's definitely still in the, in the run. As a number of drivers are going to have to dive into the pits, vaporize, dive in, add VDV lead. So the McLaren's going to be tandem here. He's now up in the P10. So if he can beat, all the drivers on slick tires as of right now, depending on how their races continue, they're still in with it. But Gawoon Jamie now going to be looking, Gawoon Jamie, Jim and Tano now, really maximize those points. So they're all in with a shout at the constructors.
Yeah, this track does look a little bit wetter. I'm seeing in a few parts of the track, it does look that little bit greasier, and as we still see both Aston Martins commanding at the front of the pack, still 5-6 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack.
And of course about 10 seconds ahead of Tano, who is the leader on those intermediate compound tires. Of course, as they come by the camera here, that track still looking to get more and more greasy, as JM actually going to look to dive into the pits. He wants to go to get off those hards and onto now.
Yes, these two still very, very close together. I think they're helping each other out, as that gap is now 9 seconds. I think they're going to try and stretch this out as much as he can so they don't lose as much time. Orgs is now making a move for first place, as I think his teammate just lets him go there.
Yeah, a little bit of DRS assistance there for Ogus to be able to take a little bit of wheel spin potentially for his team. But of course, that gap between between them and Tano, as well as Gaten James, so currently at about 8.5 seconds. Is a little bit of a drift there from Tano coming out, a little bit of a pass side out there, but we're currently sitting in P3.
Yeah, so there is now standing water on that track, as I'm seeing from this view, and there is that spray. So this is that time to start pitting, as Tano has now made that gap 8.2 seconds. So this is the right time to be pitting now, as one Aston Martin goes past.
Olga's going to stay out. Owner's going to dive in now.
So
yeah, stay out another lap, try and avoid that double stack. Aston Martin, but those inters potentially going to start to come way more into play now, as there's a lot of spray coming up off of those cars. Definitely have to see what comes out in. Thomas D is wet diving into the pits. Of course, both McLarens going to be looking to continue to try to make moves as JM right in them, as there is DRS disabled. So DRS now off at the point of this race.
yeah, as Onar comes out in P6. So again, his teammate is probably going to come out around same place, so well, maybe even further down behind Adelaide, just ahead of.
Yeah, I think Ali. Of course, with the of a gap there, gap now down to 8.5. So I'd be shocked the Martin doesn't dive into the pits now. So that will give Tano the net lead as he makes his way now through the stadium section. Those mediums really not working in his favor through this twisty middle sector. A little bit of wheel spin there on the power, and he's up to the right and dive into the pits. As you can see, losing a ton of time in this fall sector to those intermediates. So Tano will really take the lead here as we start lap number 20. And of course, he does have gains right with him. The two that started P1 and 2 still right with each other as we start lap 20.
Yeah, so Orb's coming out now. Where is he going to come out? He's out behind his teammate and behind the Mercedes driver, so he lost a huge amount of time. Xerxity is out of the race.
I believe that was just a safety car, so the race will continue. Wingish, meanwhile, was able to get a move done on JM. Despite that 3-second time penalty, he is now into P7. So, you know, that would be at worst P9 as of the moment.
Yes, Gaming James is right on the back end of Tano now. I think this might get very, very close now as we go along, because this battle is going to go on for a while.
Of course, Jamie and Owner tied together as well, as the Aston right on the back of the Alpine and really wanting to get past. Really impatient. Of course, here we come. That battle for P3. 10 is the gap right now. The Aston Martin not able to find a way through right now as Goon Jamie continues to go here.
So Wingish really needs a safety car.
Of course, still, he definitely still has a significant amount of pace in that car, and we could certainly see mistakes from a couple. As Owner not even waiting for that DRS straight, he is going to go back to Woomy, who's going to immediately tuck into the slipstream. He's starting to make that move back. Here he comes to the outside now. Is he going to make a move down into turn 1? As Ogas and Ali go side by side. A little bit of contact between the two, but seemingly all fair. As Owner moves up to P3, Ogas moves up into P5.
Yeah, Tano no, as I say that, Game James just gets ahead for that very slight second. But right now, Tano keeping his lead and just defending off of Game James.
And can fall right into the hands of Owner, who's on much newer intermediates. So we'll definitely have to see if that becomes a factor in the race. Big slides there from Tano as he makes his way through Sector 2. Definitely be able to hold on to that Williams. Gaming James looks to find a way through, and Tano actually going to run wide there. Gaming James, though, is recipient of a 3-second time penalty. Ogas gets past Garoon Jamie well in that middle sector. And of course, Tano's holding the lead as we get ready to just number 22.
As Tano pits.
So Tano really thinking those... Yeah, so those inters, really not seeming to do him any favors. Wingish, another 3-second time penalty for him. But yeah, Tano just thinking those inters are not getting enough grip from them, and opting for a fresh set. Really just trying to maximize as many points as possible. For the Red Bull of Viperize seems to stay there and is down on front wings to dive into the pits.
It's getting very wet now. I would not be surprised if someone did pit for the wet tyres, because it's starting to just seem like it's getting a bit too damp for the intermediates, as the shot right now I see it is literally heavy rain. So I do wonder if somebody will take that gamble and go onto the wet.
Of course, the amount of rain that we've had in Group 1, I do want to remind people at home that we don't set weather conditions for these races. We leave it on dynamic. So I'm about as any of you or any of our drivers that we've gotten any change oil conditions races. Of course, definitely makes it great to see not only the skill of a lot of our drivers, but the tactics as well, as Tano and Wingish going side by side. Viper is actually opting for the wets. We're getting a penalty there for cutting. So that's 9 seconds apiece for them. Stack really, he just seems to really be a fan of this track, 'cause he's getting another 3 second there.
Yeah, he is really not having the greatest of races here, as they both go very wide again. As Wingish
a bit lost traction there, lost that back end, and is now try and recover again. Those tires now just really overheated, as Diddy was almost going into his teammate there for a second, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him dive in and maybe gamble on wet. Dives into the pits. He's going for a set of inners. Wingish sitting in the pit lane, and he's going to retire. So the McLaren, I think just likely due to the pass he did gain, is going to be out of it. So he will not lock up the Drivers' Championship this week. We'll have to wait until next week to get that opportunity.
Yeah, this is going to get very intense.
This is for Tano J. Sorry?
This is going to be quite an intense last race for Wingish and who else? The Hash Drive, isn't it? The Hash Drive?
I believe Joner. It'll be between and Joner to see who comes out on top. Of course, Joner definitely not fast, but has been very consistent and been able to keep himself out of trouble and just continued to rack up points, and has given him the opportunity at the championship. I think he's come third twice this season, but otherwise hasn't had too much else yet. Owner diving into the pits.
So
what does the Aston Martin decide to do? Gaming James doing the same. It's time for wet tires.
For wet
as that rain continues to get heavier, it is white-walled wets. Or it is blue-walled wets.
It's getting very heavy out there now, as that spray is huge, and that rain just keeps falling even heavier every second. So
yeah, I think that rain just continues to get heavier. So yeah, we'll wait and see now. A number of drivers looking to stay out. Owner able to come out in P3. So he's got his teammate and Tano out ahead of him. comes out ahead of Coulter. Gaming James currently P5. Gloom Jamie still out on those inners in P7, looking to pick up as many points as possible to give the team the best shot at Instructors Champion victory. And of course, Williams looking to stay in that fight as well. And Tano. Of course, Tano in reserve. So, of course, it will be 12 laps to go the next time we do cross that finish line. That Williams, Tano looking loose again. So, I have to see, are these new inters gonna still potentially be the way to go? I don't think so. As a Red Bull Viper has big spin there at the final corner. He is gonna give way to Ogas, but he is gonna get back underway. The leader into the pits for a set of wet tires. And he is gonna retire. Did fall just about Tano electing to stay out to potentially just trying to, at this point, take track positioning on new inters. And see what all he can do. So he will take the lead, but of course here comes Owner down the pit straight. Not quite going to be able to move on him, but yeah, that rain very heavy, and can barely see down that start-finish straight with the amount of rain there is. As the cars continue to battle. So at this point, it'd be potentially more survival, and just making sure that the car keeps in the right direction than it is about overtaking. But here comes the Aston around Tano, not quite able to make that move work though, as Tano still able to defend as we make our way through 4-5 minutes. Is going to get a little bit loose there on the power. So here comes the Aston down the inside. Owner now looking to make that move stick, and Owner up into the lead of this race, take the lead on those wet weather tires.
And again, Aston Martin have a front of a pack for a great performance again from both of them, as his teammate Orgs is wanting to make that move on the Gaming James. He's only 9 tenths behind, so another double podium for the Aston Martins possibly.
Certainly on the cards, and of course big slip there from Tano, so I would dive into the pit lane now for wet weather tires as the now the pit. So definitely a lot of time lost there, and actually is going to get 5 seconds as well for speed. It's going to drop right down the order. Who all stands to gain some extra point because we're taking over the lead. It's Oga's in third, of course currently net P2, as Gaming James does have a 3-second time penalty as of the moment. So let's see where exactly Tano comes out. Of course, he will have that 5-second time penalty. He will come out ahead of Coulter and that Alfa Romeo, with a seemingly, not a massive gap there between the two. Of course, I'm still showing as about 50 seconds, so I believe that's incorrect. So let's see if, comes in now. Now when he will, down 10 driver as there earlier in the lap when we cool just was not enough him.
So 10 people remaining after kind of a hectic start to the race. We had Duel out on lap 1, Sneaky and Hypnos out on lap 4, causing 2 of the safety cars, and then Senna had crashed out in the second sector again like everybody else, and then everybody else has retired as Orcs gets a huge slide out of the final corner, but still 8 tenths behind, not really trying to make that gap any smaller to make that pass.
Yeah, of course, all the drivers are just going to try to keep pushing. As of this point, the pack really starting to get spread out. These very difficult conditions. And of course, Oga's at this point potentially just looking to hold behind Gaming James as that spray gets harder and harder to see through. I do think this is our first in the season seeing wet weather, seeing the blue rimmed tires across the whole field. Any group. Potentially, we may have had a race in Group 3 that, but I think this is the first time, first this year, in particular, for the only time, considering how rarely they use it in IRL F1, that we see these blue walled wet tires. Between Gaming James and Ogres, though, sitting in half a second on track at the moment, but of course Gaming James still will manage.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for the Red Bull driver keeping the Aston Martin behind, as he has proved he has that pace in that car. And I wonder where this Aston Martin team was at the start of the season, because this would have been one insane championship battle.
Yeah, of course. I think Owner and Ogres were both additions after the mid-season break. Yellow flag in Sector 3. That's for the Williams of JM. So going Jimmy, potentially just going to look to really push now and try and bridge that gap back. Of course, he does have the Constructors' Championship fight with weights behind him. But of course, is going to be really looking to keep that battle close. As Thomas D out of race, that was a mistake down at start. I think just a little bit of a lockup and went deep. So Thomas D out of the points, if I'm not mistaken. So that leaves us now with 9, so 10 DNFs in the race.
Yeah, not many people in the race at the moment. But at the moment, the 9 people who are in the race doing an exceptional job in the wet conditions for, like you said, the first time in a while we've seen the blue tyres being used. Not like we've seen much of it anyway.
And we're still plenty of laps of racing left to go. I guess just kind of a couple battles to keep your eye on. Of course, I think definitely this battle for P2 is Ogres right on the tail of Gaming James. Of course, they're going to still look to battle it out on track. Ogres, though, down the pit straight is going to gain that position, and as they blast down to turn 1, the Aston Martin going to pull back across. And as the turn 1, actually going to be a decent lockup there from Gaming James, who is going to fall down to P3. It should lock up that 1-2 for Aston Martin.
Yeah, very strong 1-2 for this team, and I think getting very strong points for this team. Don't know where they are in the championship. I'll have a look in a minute, but I'm guessing they are quite.
No. Yeah, I know, especially with them. With them a little bit late, the Aston Martin team sitting on 125 points. So I believe that is statistically out of the championship, though the race might be on here with Ogres running wide there and having to cut the corner in order to keep going. So the battle with Gaming James might not be over. But yeah, Aston Martin currently sitting on 125 points. Certainly have the capacity to battle with Haas and Williams, and maybe even Alpine, depending on how this continues in the Constructor Championship. In the Drivers, meanwhile, Owner currently sits on 66 points. A win would put him ahead of JM. Ogres, meanwhile, on 37 points. So, again, a win here would put him on, 62, which would bump him right up the order, I believe, up into the top 7. Of course, yeah, Aston Martin's boat.
This is going to put them ahead of Haas. So, as they do have that 1-2, and Haas not getting any points, as Tano gets a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, of course, that would demote him down to this track. Of course, was in the clear up to that point, because it was 5 versus 3 to Coulter behind. Coulter now going to have to look to really keep pushing to try and maximize the points for Alfa Romeo, who sort of not the quietest team this so far this year. Currently sitting down at the bottom on 24 points. They're going to need something big next weekend if they want to try and one-up AlphaTauri to try and snag P9. So that could certainly be an interesting fight. Of course, Robbie and Derul out early in the race. So, you know, a bunch of change-up fights still certainly on.
So we have six laps remaining as we now go on to lap 31 with Ona leading the race and commanding it with a 6-second gap ahead of his teammate.
And of course, there's 9 in mind. Definitely keep an eye. Going Jamie is away from Wade. Oh, yeah, been to lock up that P8. So I believe it's what, 4 points versus 2. So that will close that constructor's gap down to 21 points. So still certainly going to be a massive effort from Alpine to try and that potential constructor championship next time out at Interlagos, but certainly not an impossibility.
Definitely isn't impossible, but they will have to have both drivers standing at the end of the however many laps it is at Interlagos.
I believe it's another 36. It might be back 36 lap races at 50%. And there goes, that's a McLaren race. That was a big shunt in the back. I was on board with Gloom Jamie, so I caught that. That was just on the power out of turn 3. I think I was just getting on the power and losing the back end. I'm not sure if he made it far enough to score points, but that might close that gap now down to 19. We'll have to see at the end of the race if Waits did end up, taking any points from this race. But definitely disappointing to make it all the way to lap 32 and then have that mistake, and the race was just a couple laps left to go.
Yeah, you got to lap 31, and what? To get a point, you have to finish 90% of the race, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it is 90%, which believe put him there. Of course, we'll wait and see.
He might just be lucky because he did just go on to lap 31, so...
Yeah, of course, it is the Aston Martin team, 1 and 2. Actually gained a lot of time to Tana, who's actually going to walk the rears big time there into turn number 4 and go around, so he's going to lose even more time there. Might allow us now the full-time driver and teammate JM actually gain some extra whatever driver's championship he might be in here. Now, definitely not the race he would have wanted. But I think in these wet conditions, it becomes extremely challenging to be as fast as you want to be. And I think that car, I saw, was very quick in the dry and was able to hold off the likes of Gaming James and was able to pull away from guys like Owner and Ogus. But once that rain hit, definitely became a factor.
It very much did. I think even if we did have that dry spell instead of a wet spell, he probably would be up there with the likes of the Aston Martins and Red Bull.
Of course, 4 laps to go now. But of course, Glunjo on field, he's actually might gain some extra points here as Tano going to dive into the pits and retire. I believe, again, still points there for the Williams, but he will be out of the race. So that'll give Glunjani, I believe, another 2 points as he jumps up as he gains their spot into P7, so keeping Alpine's hopes alive now.
Yeah, so that's now what, 18 or 17 points gap difference to McLaren. So Alpine looking very, very popular for first place in the constructors with how McLaren have been doing the last few races.
Yeah, of course, 4 laps to go now. Again, with that 7.5 second gap at the front. So yeah, definitely So definitely worth taking a look at some of the other battles. Of course, Haas and Aston Martin will have a decent go at things, and potentially Aston Martin and Williams now going to have that big old fight. Of course, yeah. Again, Aston is out of the championship fight. They are currently 76 points adrift. Actually, no. I think that can you be 76 back? Not sure.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to math on my because it's what 26 and 18 is 44. So I'm theoretically in it. But we're still going to have some max points next weekend. Of course, Wings in the race. So actually, Aston Martin is still in now that I run the numbers through my head. Of course, with the P1, P2 this week, I think they'd have to do the same next week and have both McLarens out of the points to still have a shot. But yeah, that's a fight there. A couple of drivers standing fights to look at. Jamie, of course, currently sitting third on 96. Also going to be trying to chase down Jonah on 110. I believe 6 points would put him on 102. So he 8 points of Jonah. And still would have and still mathematically in for the championship as well. So we'll have a technical three-way fight for the drivers' championship this weekend. Wingus, Jonah, but of course, Jamie gonna need to win the fastest lap and have Wingish and Jonah not finish in order to be able to lock that up. Of course, owner gonna certainly be in conversation now as well. Of course, if he walks away with full points today, that'll put him on 91 and give him a shot at potentially P2. Position there where we'll get up to I believe P4 today. But of course, still we'll have a couple of fights, or we'll have to put up a couple of fights. Still, I guess a couple of championship fights to look at. Ferrari and Mercedes currently separated by about 10 points. Mercedes, of course, going to take the lead at P4 today. Of course, that'll give the Mercedes 12 points. That'll put them 2 points up on Ferrari. So the silver and the scarlet, good war in Interlagos, trying to look up P6. Williams and Alpine certainly going to have an interesting fight ahead of them. Green Jamie with 6 points, JM with, I believe, 8. So that gap going to close to 6. Alpine, Williams, and McLaren all in the Constructors' Championship. So still a lot of positions up for grabs. Of course, owner getting their way with the final lap of this race. Just a little bit longer to bring it home.
2 more sectors to go, and the Aston Martin driver has won here this weekend, but still got 2 more sectors to go. Anything can still happen.
Yeah, still a little bit now left to go. Of course, making his way down through Sector 2. So yeah, just a couple of left to go. Of course, this is, once again, another great result for Aston Martin. If I'm not mistaken, that is potentially back-to-back 1-2s. I'm actually going to check as of right now. Of course, owner won last time it was P1 and P16. Of course, fireworks going off, making their way through the stadium section. More left to go now. And so it will be owner with the Mexican Grand Prix, moving Aston Martin 1 point more to try and finish ahead, as high as they can. Of course, still keeping themselves alive. Oga is out of the line. It will be an Aston Martin 1-2. Gaming James with a good drive, finish 3. VV, of course, looking to carry Mercedes up ahead of their in the battle with Ferrari. Is going to come finish before Coulter. Certainly had a nice drive. Alpha going to be very happy with this result, and of course, certainly at the bottom of the order. But of course, any points are going to be good. They'll come out across the line to finish P5, and of course, in a little bit of style, so spin his way through the final corner there. JM going to come home to finish in P6, come through the final couple of corners now. And of course, Guru and Jamie going to finish up order in P7. A little bit of twitch, so he is still with us. But of course, keeping Alan's hopes alive, he'll come home to finish 7. As he is gonna trickle his way out of the final corner. Gonna take his time. Okay, you can finish whenever you want, Rocky. Of course, here he comes out of the final corner. Of course, definitely a very challenging one, as he's actually gonna pull a little bit of a Max Verstappen there and park up. But anyway, so yeah, James, I don't know if you got anything to say about the race. Certainly a very challenging one for a lot of drivers in those full wet conditions. But of course, definitely going to produce an interesting fight next weekend at Interlagos.
Yeah, it's a very tricky race for some drivers. Some drivers didn't even make it into the wet. But
Jamie does cross the line there, so it will be first 1 and 2. Oguz does walk away with driver of the day as well. Yeah, James, I don't know if you've anything to say in closing here.
I do not have much to say. I mean, well done to Aston Martin for another commanding race. But this time...
You?
Huh?
I think I lost them.
Can you hear me? Or...
Yeah, well, at least I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if James is talking either. But you know, definitely be sure to tune in tomorrow for group action. Armados Rodriguez. Of course, and definitely tune in as well for next weekend for the season finale at Interlagos, as there is an win from Oguz Gaming, James, Audi, Coulter, JM, Galoon, Jamie, who ends up in P7. Tano finishes 8th. Does steal fast laps, so will score points. Waits and Thomas D did get enough into the race to end up scoring points, so they'll walk away with 2 and 1 points with DNF. So, James, don't know if you can hear me, and I'll go ahead and let you something to sign off.
Can you hear me now? Bacon?
Just gonna pull up stream to see if you're still there.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely be sure to do that. Links if you haven't done so already. And we will see you next time.